And then for the bottom ones, we want to refer back to the notes. Whenever we have a 45, 45, 90 triangle, we know two things about that. We know the legs are equal. The legs are equal. See how this is an X and this is an X? Same thing, that means they're equal. And the second thing we know is the hypotenuse is whatever the leg measure is times the square root of 2. So the hypotenuse equals leg times the square root of 2. Now this I will keep writing on my paper to set up the equation. To say the two legs are equal, I don't need to write that. I can kind of just remember it and write it down on the paper. But remember this. Two legs are equal and the hypotenuse is equal to leg times the square root of 2. And that's for a 45, 45, 90 triangle. Okay? So you see here on number 7, I already have it written down. The hypotenuse is equal to the leg times the square root of 2. The first thing we should do is find out what is the hypotenuse and which ones are the legs. So the hypotenuse is always across the 90-degree angle. So if you go across the 90-degree angle, this is your hypotenuse. That means this one's a leg and this one's a leg. Well, guess what? The legs are equal. Because the legs are equal, I know what y equals. Y equals that number. 2 times the square root of 5. Okay? This leg equals that leg. Now all I need to do is figure out what the hypotenuse is. To figure out the hypotenuse, I'm going to use this equation. I'm going to substitute x for the hypotenuse. The leg measure, I just figured out what the leg measure is. So the leg is 2 times the square root of 5. And then that square root of 2 comes down. And then remember, because just like the ones we did up top, because both of these are underneath the square root, you can combine them underneath one square root and then just multiply. And that's what x equals. And you cannot simplify that. The square root of 10 stays the square root of 10. So that's what y equals, and that's what x equals for number 7. Okay, I'm going to wait to do number 8 because it is a lot of work and I don't want to scare you guys right off the bat. So let's do number 9 and 10, and then I'll go back up to 8. So again, the first thing you want to do is figure out which one is the hypotenuse. So this guy up here is the hypotenuse. This is a leg. This is a leg. The legs are equal. So that means y equals 5. We got 5 on this side. This one better be a 5 also. Maybe I could even mark them. The legs are equal. So then I'm going to use this equation. And a lot of students wonder, well, how do you remember that? It's because I keep writing it. I keep writing it. I keep using it. That's how I remember this. Plus it's written down in the notes. So anyway, the hypotenuse is x. So instead of hypotenuse, I'm going to put x. The leg we just figured out is 5. And then bring down the square root of 2. And that's it. You can't do anything with that. The 5 cannot go underneath the square root. So it just stays on the outside. I mean, see how easy that was? So for number 9, that's the value of x, and that's the value of y. Now let's jump over here to 10. So for 10, again, first thing we want to do is figure out the hypotenuse. So just go across the 90-degree angle. This is the hypotenuse. That means this side is a leg, and this side is a leg. The legs are equal. This side is equal to this side. So I know n is equal to 5 square root of 2. Okay. And then the hypotenuse, well, I need to use this equation. I need to use that equation. So the hypotenuse is n. So instead of hypotenuse, I'm going to put n. For the leg, I'm going to put 5 times square root of 2. Then I'm going to bring down that square root of 2. And then I will write this one out a little bit more. Remember, you can combine these. That's 2 times 2. And then that's 4. and then the square root of 4 is 2, and then 5 times 2 is 10. Whew. Now this is showing you all the steps. Okay, we could have skipped a few steps in there, but I didn't want to. I want to make sure you see it all worked out. So again, we had 2 square roots here. I put them underneath 1. I multiplied, and then I took the square root of that, and then 5 times 2 is 10. So let's look at 8. Now I said 8 was kind of like a lot of work, and it is. And now I don't even think I'm going to be able to fit it in here, but let's try. Look at that ugly number. Figuring out one of the answers is easy because, watch, we know this is the hypotenuse, okay, because it's across the 90-degree angle. And then that means this is the leg, and this is the leg. So I know y equals that number. So this is one of your answers. Okay, because these two sides are equal. I didn't want to rewrite it, but that's my answer. And then the hypotenuse, to find x, I'm going to use the equation x equals leg times square root of 2. So here's the leg, and then times the square root of 2. And then if I start to simplify this, I'm going to put the 6 and the 2 underneath 1 square root. The 5/3, you don't do anything with 5/3 just yet. Then multiply 6 times 2. See, I'm already running out of space. I'm gonna bring it across this way. And then the 12, you have to realize you can break this up. I'm gonna break up the 12. That's 4 times 3. Now remember, I haven't done anything with the 5/3 yet. And then I'm going to separate these square roots. I separate them because now I can take the square root of 4. The square root of 4 is 2, and then you're left with the square root of 3. And then finally, 5 times 2 is 10, square root of 3, and then you have 3 on the bottom. And that was x. I told you that guy was a mess. Now again, it's a mess because I show you every single little step. Okay, so rewind that if you need to rewind it. I'm going to move on to 11, 12. The other ones aren't that difficult. Number 8 is the most difficult one on here.